Okay, and this year I'm changing up the fruits that I'm putting in my my cross buns. I'm making some red cross buns this year, and I'm changing up the fruit. I'm using apricots. So I have the whole apricots, and I need to dice them very small. So I'm cutting them first in little slivers, and then turn them the other way, and then slice them again, and then you get a lovely small dice, because you don't want a large piece in the cross buns. So I'm using apricots in my cross buns this year instead of raisins. So hello and welcome again to Chris's Caribbean Delights, and we are going to do a traditional hot cross buns. It's the hot cross bun season, and we need it for like tomorrow or in 2 days. So you have 2 days to prepare, but I'm going to do a traditional hot cross buns with a twist, a little twist. It's going to be well seasoned, and it's going to be nice and fluffy and sweet, and with all the flavors and all the spices that you can put in there. But we're going to do a little twist at the end, and I'll show you that when it happens. So let's go to those ingredients and put together some hot cross buns. So basically, it's my hot cross buns recipe, which I already have on the channel. You have 4 cups of all-purpose flour. I have here a 1.5 cups of sugar. If you like it a little less sweet, just lessen the sugar. I have here apricots. I'm going to use apricots instead of raisins. I'm using bits of apricot. I diced them up. The spices remain the same. I have here clove powder, allspice, cinnamon, mace powder, and nutmeg, my favorite nutmeg. And I have here some yeast, 2 tablespoons of yeast, instant yeast I'm using. That's salt, 1 teaspoon of salt. I have some lemon zest, some lime zest, and that's a little different. I'm adding some lime zest for a little twist on there in the flavor. I have 4 eggs here for their small eggs. Usually 3 large eggs, but I have 4. We have 4 small eggs. Here I have some anise extract, or aniseed extract, I should say, or yeah, it's an aniseed or anise extract, and some vanilla. Here I have some warm milk, and a 1/4 cup of vegetable oil, just to get that, just to keep it moist. And I have a stick of butter, which I'm going to use also. You can either use 3/4 cups of oil, or you can use 1 stick of butter and a 1/4 cup of oil. Or you can use all oil, which is like a 3/4 cup of oil. Okay, so let's go to our mixer. Our mixer here, I'll first, what my method here would be, I'll put the sugar in. I have the sugar, that's the sugar. I put the sugar in, and with the sugar, I would want to put the lemon and the lime zest. The lemon and the lime zest. Okay, we're gonna get this right. The lemon and the lime zest. And what I'm going to do is I put my paddle attachment on here, because I want to make some lemon lime sugar, which means I'm going to bruise the lemon and just have it rub with the sugar, the lemon, the lime zest, have it rub into the sugar, and then you get that lemon lime sugar flavor. So let's get this going. So once that happens, we're going to continue adding the dry ingredients. I'm going to put my 4 cups of all-purpose flour in, along with my spices. I enumerated the spices already, the clove powder, mace powder, cinnamon, yeah, all the good stuff. So we added our spices, the clove powder, the mace powder, etc. Then we'll go in with the yeast. Go in with the yeast. The sugar is in there already. I'm going to put in the salt a little later because the yeast and the salt really doesn't go together if they go into right behind each other. They kind of kick, it kills the yeast, I should say. Now, so I switched from the paddle attachment to the whisk attachment. I have my whisk attachment on, and now I'll just we'll shut it down and get it started again. So now the whisk attachment is going to just mix everything, all the dry ingredients. It's going to mix them all together, get them all incorporated. And we'll just do this for about maybe 30 seconds to a minute. So at this point, when I have the whisk on there, I whisked for like 30 seconds or 45 seconds just to get everything all mixed in. The dry ingredients are there. I'm going to now add my eggs. I'm going to add the softened butter in there. All the liquid ingredients, the wet ingredients, the oil, the milk. Let me put our essences, our vanilla and our anise extract, all the wet ingredients. And last but not least, we'll put that salt in there now. We'll put it in there now, since the yeast has been in there, and got mixed in already. So now we're going to use this whisk until everything is incorporated properly. And when it starts to get doughy and very thick, I'm going to switch from the whisk to my dough. My dough. So I just want to get this all mixed in. So in order to bring my dough together, I had to add another half a cup of flour. So that's 4.5 cups of flour that I have in there, and I added the apricots, the diced apricots. So we're going to let the dough hook. I switched to the dough hook. The dough hook is going to bring it all together, and it's going to start to get that gluten formulated. So we'll let this go for about 5 minutes, and then we'll be back. So feel free to add some flour if you see it's still sticky and it sticks to your finger. Just feel free to add some flour to it and just let it until you can see it coming from the sides of the bowl. Once it comes from the sides of the bowl, the gluten is forming and it's almost ready. You can just knead it with your hand and smooth it off, and you're good. So now that the dough has come together, right? When you pinch it, it's stretching. That means the gluten has it's not breaking up. The gluten has formed. So we'll just get it out of the pan. Okay, so the dough has come together, and I have put it out on a floured surface, and I'm going to just knead it a little more until it gets nice and smooth, and then we'll set it to rest for an hour. So it's just a matter of pulling it, pushing it back, folding it over on itself, folding it over, and just for about 5 minutes maybe, or until it gets smooth. Once it gets smooth, you'll just turn it over. It's nice and smooth, and we'll just put it into a greased bowl so that it can rise for about an hour. Nice greased bowl. I'll squish it around to get some of the oil on the top so that it wouldn't form a crust in there. So we'll set it I'll put it in my oven, and we'll set the oven to the bread proof mode. The bread proofing, just hit bread proof, and then you hit start. So it comes up to 95 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's your bread proofing warmth. So that's the warmth you need for bread proofing, and we'll just put it into the oven. And let it sit there. You'll check it you'll check it every half an hour. You want to give it an hour to let it double in size, but you'll check it every half an hour to make sure it's doing what it's supposed to do. So after the dough has rested for about an hour or so, I'm going to just divide it into equal parts, and then before I shape the cross buns, I'll roll it out into a log so that I can just manage the size better. You can wait if you just want them at the precise size, one precise size. But now that I finished cutting them all up, I will now form them into these little balls here. And I like seeing the little pieces of apricot. I have a pan here that I sprayed with some non-stick spray, and this is where I'm going to put them. Pan down here. Well, I have finished rolling them off, and I have them in the oven again for a second proofing, and we'll let it stay for maybe about 30 to 40 minutes so that the gluten can relax and it can develop a little more size. So in 30 minutes we'll start the process of baking, and that will be at 350 for about 40 minutes. And in the meantime, it's time to make our glaze. So in a small saucepan here, I have 2 tablespoons of peach preserve, and a teaspoon of vanilla. I also have 1 tablespoon of sugar, granulated sugar. And I'm going to bring this to a boil, and I added 3 tablespoons of water. 3 tablespoons of water. So it's 3 tablespoons of water, 1 tablespoon of sugar, 2 tablespoons of peach preserve, and vanilla, and a tablespoon of vanilla. So, and this is going to be the glaze that I'm going to paint them with once they get out of the oven and they're finished baking. So let's bring this to a boil, and then let it simmer. And once it simmers, there's some large pieces of preserve in here. So once it gets soft, I'll remove them, or I'll maybe use an immersion blender and just blend it all up. But I just need the liquid, that lovely glaze liquid that is going to produce. I just need that liquid so that it can put a nice glaze on the cross buns. Now, whilst this is coming to a boil, I'll just put together the icing that I will make the cross with. So I made my icing, and it's red, as you can see. And today I am making a red icing to put the cross on my cross buns. I know you're asking the question, why red? Well, traditionally it's been white all the time, a white cross on the bun. And I just thought about it. I said, well, if we're celebrating Easter, and but we must remember, we must bear in mind that Jesus, who we're celebrating his rising, he gave his blood for us. So why not celebrate with something, the color of blood, along with the celebration of the Easter, of the rising. Along with the rising came the blood. The blood came before the rising, and he shed his blood for us, and he rose again. So that's my reasoning for the red icing, and it's just different, and I just like the concept that I thought of. So I have a nice smooth red icing, powdered sugar, right? And just a little bit of food coloring, red food coloring, with some cornstarch and water. A little bit of water, a little bit of cornstarch, and just get it to this consistency. When you get it to this consistency, you're good. And I'll pipe this onto the buns as soon as not as soon as they get out, because they have to cool first before you put the icing on, or it's just going to run all over the place. So once they cool, we're going to be piping with our red icing, significant of the blood of Jesus. So how about that concept? The blood. He shed his blood for us. So why can't we celebrate the blood? Just put a little bit of red into your icing, and you make that cross. And there you go. You're celebrating the blood that he shed for us. And you're celebrating the rising in Easter. So hey, I think it's a good concept, doesn't it? Isn't it? Okay. Anyway, we'll go ahead and we'll do our piping once the buns are ready and they're out of the oven. So here we go. The cross buns are out of the oven. They're out of the oven. after about, it took almost an hour, 55, maybe an hour and 5 minutes. But it all depends on your oven. So now I'm going to glaze them. I had them cooling for a little bit. Now I'm going to glaze them with the peach. It's the peach glaze that I made. It's a peach preserve or jam. You just take 2 tablespoons, put it on the fire with a tablespoon of sugar and some water, and just let it melt and thicken up. And once it thickens up, you're good to go. So they're glazed, and now I'm going to let them cool before putting on the icing. The icing cross. It has to be very cold, or really cold, for you to put on an icing cross. You can't put on the sugar cross on here when it's hot, or else it's going to run all over the place. So we'll move it over here, and I'll take care of the others while this cools down. And I have my icing here. Remember, we're going to use the red icing, signifying the blood of Christ. So I'll be back. So let's put our crosses, our red crosses, onto the hot cross buns. The cross buns has to be cold before you put the crosses on. So they're nice and cool now, and so we'll proceed. I'm going to I have a piping bag here with a tip, and I'm just going to pour the icing into the bag and just get going. Let's see how the best way we can get this in here. I would usually put it on into a glass or something, but this is not a lot. Put it into a cup and then just pour it in there. It's going in pretty good. Then I don't need a lot either, so. Cool, I think that's enough. Don't need any more. All right. And then let's just pipe straight across. If you don't think it has enough, just go again. Go again. Okay. They look wonderful.